it's great. I mean, what a project to embark on whilst you're qualifying at chief superintendent. That's amazing.
I know. A lot of people have said, how on earth have you had time to write a book? And I went, in 2 weeks. I
Yeah.
wrote the book in 2 weeks. Okay, so what really inspired me to write a book was because I'd started to be asked to deliver presentations about my journey because it had been so well, at work, it was quite a dramatic visual transformation from,
Yeah.
being off sick to then returning to work and being physically very different, but also, mentally and emotionally. And I'd started doing these presentations, and there's some recorded and there's some on YouTube. But what I realized was that in 1 hour, you couldn't go into the level of detail that I really needed to go into to
Mm.
explain retrospectively how I had got better and how I'd become so metabolically flexible, so healthy, and so resilient again. And so I decided that I needed to get to write it in a book so that it was accessible to not just people in policing, but people globally, because as a perimenopausal woman who faced obesity, blood clot, everything else,
Mm.
and acute perimenopausal stress, to have lost 60 pounds and, been in the best shape of my life, I felt like, that's a story that people need to be inspired by, but also get the practical tools. So that's why I wrote the book
Yeah, fantastic.
and
And why
found an
why the
opportunity.
title Crisis to Comeback? Why did you have that?
Okay, because basically at the point that everything kind of went pear-shaped for me physically and mentally, uh, I I felt like my policing career was
Wow.
over,
Is that
finished.
right?
And yeah, I mean, I when I came back to work 2 years ago, roughly now, I'd kind of settled for, if I can just get through the day and do my day job to the best of my ability, that is going to be good. I want to be able to finish my 30 years in policing
Yeah.
proud of what I've achieved, but
Mm.
not pushing myself back into a space where I'm going to be unwell again,
Yeah.
clearly. So
Yeah.
I'd laid down kind of promotion. I'd laid down the only aim I had 2 years ago, and I found a little journal entry last week,
Yeah.
was to go back to work, do my job well, and stay healthy. That was it. So the whole crisis to come back, just even coming back to work, was a comeback,
Wow.
because halfway through that period off work, I thought I was not going to ever be able to do my job again because I didn't feel mentally capable. I
Yeah.
was so forgetful, and stuff was all over the place, and I was emotional, and you can't be emotional when you're a police officer. I mean, you can be emotional, but
Yeah, yeah,
you
but
you
it's not
can't
at the daily
got
level.
you
Yeah.
can't be a senior leader and be, breaking down every 10
And
minutes.
that
It's not really, it's not.
and I won't get into it in this interview, but you've just recently qualified not only get a comeback, and instead of just coming back to work as a police leader in the
Yeah,
United Kingdom,
yeah.
you're now chief superintendent. That's right?
Promoted. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got
That's
promoted.
a
I
comeback.
got promoted. Yeah, it's absolutely a comeback. I mean, it's just, I still keep thinking, how did I get, I mean, I don't think I've been this well, since probably I joined policing. I'm like, I feel like I'm in the best shape physically and mentally. I don't feel, I feel I get tired more quickly than I did when I was in my 20s,
Yeah, me
but
too.
I don't, yeah, but I'm not, I feel, mentally alert. I feel energized. I mean, I've already talked about my routine. I go to bed early, I get up early. I'm super productive, particularly in the kind of early part of the day. But I am, to all intents and purposes, I am in the best shape. And so,
Uh,
yeah, the promotion thing was not a focus when I came back to work. I absolutely had said, people had asked me, are you going to go for that next rank? And I'd said, no, not at the moment. I'm going to see if I can do my job for 12 months,
yeah.
just do my job, and then I'll see how I am. And that's been really key in my success. It's
Mm.
been taking bite-sized chunks, taking little steps,
Yeah.
making daily choices, not setting a big goal. And so, yeah, the comeback, has been phenomenal and beyond what I ever expected. But I know that metabolic health has got a lot to do with that. Sleep, managing stress.
Inside the book, here's my next question. Inside the book, you talk, I guess, in this one, and you've got a subsequent one following, but you talk about the power of the lumen metabolic analyzer. Is that inside the book for people to discover?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so the book is the whole journey. And my next book will be focused around just lumen, weight loss, metabolic flexibility. But there's a chapter in the book about lumen. And I think the key is that it's not just, okay, so the device is a device. It's a tool. It gives you feedback on what your metabolism is doing. But it also pushes you towards a lifestyle where you're prioritizing sleep, nutrition, activity and movement, activity and mindset management, stress management. And actually it's those 4 components that are the most powerful thing for our metabolism to work optimally. And once our metabolism works optimally, we are going to be better in our everyday life. You know, I gave some tips recently to some guys at work about promotion, and I started off with the whole, actually, let's forget all the interview stuff. Let's just start with the mindset piece, because that is actually the most important. And then I talked through the mindset piece, but then I talked about nutrition, and they went, no one's ever talked to me about nutrition promotion. And I said, it's absolutely crucial. I said, because on that day where you have your interview, if you eat the wrong food, I'm saying this, if you eat the wrong food, you will not be in the best mental state to do that interview, because your blood sugar levels will fluctuate. You'll have the roller coaster crash, and you actually need to be on it for the whole time that you are doing your presentation and your interview. So you've got to really focus on what you eat. They couldn't believe it. So there you go. You heard it here.
Yeah,
it's true though.
Yeah, it's true though. So let me ask you this, because this is one of the things that fascinates me as a health educator is I love finding out, and is this in your book, about what your routine was and how you know, from a sleep point of view, so where it is today, I guess, sleep point of view, nutrition point of view, and physical activity point of view, and stress point of view. You cover that inside some of the book chapters?
I do. Yeah, I cover that in the book. I cover it first in My Perfect Storm, where I talk about it all being out of sync.
Yeah.
And then I talk about it in the chapter where I talk about joining the dots, all the different things, pieces of the jigsaw. I also talk about it at the end of the book in the last chapter, which is called Carpe Diem, which is all about seizing the day. And actually those 4 things, getting the nutrition, sleep, stress, mindset, and activity levels right, is really key to how you then build that foundation for success. So if someone had told me 2 years ago when I returned to work that I would be doing what I'm doing now, that I would have written a book, I would have just gone, there's no way.
Yeah. Wow. So this is the next thing I want to find out in reading the book, and for anyone who sees this interview before they get the book, is it's incredible to me that most people find it a challenge to get started on this kind of a journey, whether they're having a crisis or they just want to improve their personal physical health status. But then what keeps you sustained? Like, how do you is that in the book, how you can mentally continue to approach these things correctly?
Well, I think I do talk in the book quite a bit about muscle memory, and I'm a big believer in the whole muscle memory thing. So, well, because it's how we're wired basically as human beings. So I think what I talk about, I start off by saying that actually the pain of change has to be less than the pain of staying the same. You have to be so uncomfortable with how you are at some level to propel you first into that place of change. And then what you have to do is you have to take those positive steps. I don't really talk in massive detail. I've talked about it in different interviews. I can't remember whether I talk in massive detail about how once you start to change, one of the things that keeps you walking in the same good daily choices is actually the positive emotion. So when you start to see your body change, your mind change, your spirit change, all of those things becoming stronger, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, once you start to reap the rewards of that, that generates a lot of joy and a lot of, satisfaction. And so then the choices. So for instance, for me, I've eliminated alcohol 98%, I would say.
Wow.
In 2.5 years, I've hardly drank at all.
Is that
I had
unusual
2.5.
for police officers?
Oh, it's incredibly unusual. And in my case, and I cover the alcohol journey, I am very open about my increasing dependency on alcohol in the book. I tell the story, and I do that on purpose, because I think that in society, we polarize the alcohol issue. You're either an alcoholic, which I don't agree with anyway, and I talk about that as well at the end of the book. I mean, if it helps people to self-identify, that's great. I don't, I'm not judging people who feel they have to identify like that. But I talk about that as a pattern, and how in policing, for certain, it punctuates so many different things. It's almost elevated as the way to deal with stress. And I show you quite clearly how it actually elevates stress in the book. And not to tell people not to drink, because everybody's got to find their own place. I mean, personally, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to being a drinker. I'm never going to drink every weekend. I'm never going to drink maybe every month. I'm not saying never, and I'm not saying it won't happen. I might not do it occasionally, but I have so reinforced my belief systems around alcohol. You've got to convince me of a real benefit in the moment for me to drink it. But when I was in the space, it was a daily habit, pretty much. Wow. And there's a lot of cops in that space. So I do write about it, because people talk about the alcoholic, but actually in policing, people think of the alcoholic as the person we're dealing with that's a challenge to us.
Yeah.
They don't think about it as the career successful person that is using alcohol. What I will say is that without using alcohol, your brain is way better, your sleep is way better, your concentration is way better, your performance is way better. I'm absolutely convinced that I'm as strong and healthy as I am today because I don't have that toxic thing in my mix.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, let's wrap this up, because I know you've got to go somewhere, and I wanted to just get people a little snippet of what's coming in your book, because we got the covers all ready to go and it's about ready to be released. So you're towards the end of your 30-year career in policing now. You've risen to chief superintendent. What's after chief superintendent in the police force?
In England, after chief superintendent. So chief superintendent is like the final kind of rank where you've got the big area commands and departments and that. And then above chief superintendent, you have what's called the executive leadership teams. And the executive leadership teams consist of usually 2 to 5 assistant chief constables, depending on the size of the force. This is not the Met. They have a slightly different structure at that senior level. But in most police forces in the UK, it's assistant chief constable, a couple of them up to sort of 4 or 5, depending how big the force is. Then it's deputy chief constable, then it's chief constable. So you've got that executive. It's like the CEO and the directors of a company, I guess. That would be the way of kind of, and then the commanders, as we call chief superintendents, are the ones that manage all the kind of business areas and have that day-to-day interaction with the teams and leading the leadership teams. So the role I've got at the moment as a temporary chief superintendent in the UK, I have around about 500 staff, and I have a superintendent, 4 chief inspectors reporting to me, and 14 inspectors, and then under that, sergeants and constables and police staff. So
wow,
it's a big team, about 500 people together.
That's big. So you get to the end of this, whenever that comes, that role, and what's your final plan? You've written a book. What's your plan after the police force? And you get to 30 years.
Well, I'm holding all of that lightly because, you know, at the moment I'm really enjoying policing, and lots of people would be saying to me, "We've only got a year. You only have to do a year and you can retire." And that's true. I could retire next July. I have no plans to retire next July.
Good.
I want to see where the next 12 months takes me, whether I then look at taking the next step, you know, towards the executive leadership program. And then I think beyond policing, I'm probably going to be doing something around the well-being space for sure,
Yeah.
because
And helping other
I'm
people on their
really,
journey, like you are with the book.
yeah, I'm really passionate about that. I'm also very involved in the church. I'm a Christian, and I don't know whether there may be some avenues that I'll be doing some things in a voluntary capacity within the kind of Christian community as well. So I'm really open to, you know, I'm going to see what God's got next, because I don't want to know too much of the future now. I've got to that point where actually I think it's better to be just look at the next 12 to 18 months, take one step at a time, and then you can be surprised, can't you?
Well, congratulations on the first
I mean,
book.
yeah, I was going to
And
say, I'm actually moving police forces. I mean, I'm not able to talk about which police forces in an interview like this, but I'm moving from one police force to another police force in the UK. So I'm going from being a temporary chief superintendent, which I achieved last August, to being a substantive chief superintendent. So yeah, I've passed another selection process for that this year.
Yeah, that's just amazing. Well, I can't wait for people to dig into this first book and to get a hold of it in their hands or electronically, and then the next one as well. I mean, that is just going to be sensational. So, amongst all those other things, hey, thanks for spending some time with me in this interview about your brand new book, Crisis to Comeback.
And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Look, hey, thanks, Maria. Go and enjoy the rest of your day. It's late on a Sunday afternoon here in Australia, and you're just getting started the day in England.
And I'm looking forward to seeing the Australian police, if we can set that up.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to show you some things very shortly that I've been working on with my team, so that we can begin to interact with some police over here pretty quickly once that book's all up and running. So I'm excited about that.
Great.
All right. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
I will do. See you. Bye.